Apologies for the small technical hiccup, as we unfortunately won't get the lap guide in for you today, but we can take you around the points of this season so far. We're coming down to the final parts of that, so let's take a look at that Drivers' Championship. Up at the top, it would be Steve Bycroft on pure points, but again, you can see they have 4 drop weeks. Because of that, Prix has found himself in the lead towards the end of things once again. Matt Wood has been challenging him, but unfortunately last week was not able to finish ahead, so he drops down even farther back. Bycroft is climbing up, though. He is up to third. His continued impressive performance could net him a championship, depending on how the rest of this thing goes. What about the team's championship, Sam? How is that standing?
Now we'll go look at it right here, Joe, and you can see it's close at the top between Renault and Williams, just 5 markers separating them. Ferrari sitting on their own in third right now, 30 points back, and then Ligier and McLaren battling close for fourth position, sitting 50 and 52 points back respectively.
And if you've never watched the Lotus 79 series, this Classic Teams Championship race details, as we mentioned, has this as race number 9. So only 2 to go after today is over. And there's the different drop weeks that they allow. That means that their worst scores are not counted to allow them some leeway in case they have real-world obligations. Today's race itself is going to be 32 laps, and there should be no expected pit stops. If you have to come in, you're going to be sent down the order pretty quickly. They do have an incident cap as well, and the points that they use for that championship is the official iRacing points, which is scheduled, of course, or determined by their iRating. Now, as qualifying goes on, we've got, of course, Matt Wood up at the top, which bodes well for him. Prix is close behind, but don't forget Steve Bycroft, who's managed to put it in third. And in fact, we've got a lot of familiar names up towards the top.
Yeah, well, you saw on our driver standings graphic that Gernot Prix is about 20 points over Wood, Bycroft and Fraser, who are all in a tight battle for second. Prix was holding the top qualifying position right as we cut to qualifying. Wood pipped him by less than half of a tenth of a second. We've still got some drivers out on track here trying to go faster. Here we see Petteri Kotavara sitting quite far down in the order right now. Let's see if he's able to jump up with the second lap. He's only sitting 11th right now in the 4 car.
Yeah, just a few more coming across the line. Todd Herner actually starts his first type lap, and I believe he'll only get one time lap in unless he has an off somewhere around here. Plenty of places to do that with all the various S's through here. Molitor, the Carolina driver, has not set a time yet, and in fact he won't set a time with a mistake in the carousel, so that's going to be it for him today. In fact, seeing if anybody else can manage to complete a lap. Looks like Herner will be the main one. Tobias Rohner has already finished his, so he won't be able to get one in. Brad Clank is also done. I think Herner's the only one that we're waiting on.
Yeah, and he's working his way through the hairpin right now, so he is yet to turn a lap in this number 21 car. We have a single split here today at Sonoma of 24 cars, so if you want big points, you're definitely going to have to finish up towards the top if you're fighting for that championship, probably even take the win. Todd Herner's the number 21 of 24. Providing he gets the time lap in here, which I think he will. I haven't seen him put a wheel off so far this lap, and he's still going for it. He will jump into the top 20 because only 19 cars have turned a lap so far. He's about to be the 20th. Where will he go? Considering he has a number 21, don't expect anything too high, but maybe he'll surprise us. And unfortunately, he won't, because I was wrong. He must have put a wheel off at some point.
Well, that is disappointing. He at least gave it his best. He's going to try and circulate around to get a little bit more practice, it looks like. But that sets our field for today. Why don't we go through our starting grid here for round 9. Matt Wood is going to be on the pole with Gernot Prix starting next to him. Those two have been really back and forth for the championship. They've been joined by the car driving in third, starting in third, Steve Bycroft down there. Adam Fraser will be P4 at the drop of the green with Nicola Cocci. He could throw a wrench in the mix. He's been very fast, the Italian. Michael Unhola has found a little bit of pace again, looking a little bit more like his former form in 6th. Pablo Suarez starts P7. Dustin Heroder will be 8th at the start with John Atkinson in 9th and Timothy Dalton in 10th.
Starting in 11th position will be Petteri Kotavara. Keith Herner will be starting alongside him in 12th. John Stevens and Rob Olyanek make up a row number 7. And then behind them we have Robert Simpkins and Brad Clegg. Steve Salis and Johnny Bell are 17th and 18th positions. And then starting on row number 10, we have Tobias Rona and Barry West, the first driver who didn't set a time.
And 21st, it is Brian Molitor and Todd Herner. In 22nd, Don Ronkel Jr. In 23rd, and Glenn McKinnon will start 24th on the field. Those are your starters for the day. And as we wait for them to grid up, we'll have to wait and see if these drivers manage to get off the line clean and then manage to get through turns 1 and 2 clean as well. As we watch them all slowly get their way onto the grid. This, of course, could be important in the implications. I said 2 races left. It is actually 3, of course, with this being round 9. And the drivers still do have to watch out for those drop weeks, of course, with the green flag now getting ready to go. Lights are up. Green flag is out. Off the line, it looks like a pretty decent start from our pole sitter, as Wood has a little bit of an edge as they come up to turn 1. It looks like they're starting to get single file for the top, but Sam, it is very congested back through the field.
Yeah, looks like cleaner than what it was at the Nürburgring, though. But how critical was it for Matt Wood to get pole position? You saw he easily led all on his own into the first set of corners, and this is not an easy track to make a pass on. It's going to be tough for Gernot Frisch to get that lead from him. Still have side-by-side racing down into the carousel. Adam Fraser's on the outside of Nicola Cochi. That battle's going on for 4th place, and lots of side-by-side racing behind them too.
Thankfully, we did not have dramas at the first part here, as they now come into the hairpin. Look how closely the top 3 are still racing, as that battle for 4th looks like it is going to be settled, as we got a spin farther back in the pack.
Oh, big crash going through the S's now. It didn't clear up. Brad Clenk is in it, and it's still going on, as a matter of fact. I'm counting about 6 cars. Barry West, Robert Simpkins, Don Runkle Jr. has damage. Todd Herner has a lot of damage. Pablo Lombardo Suarez is in the pits for damage. Dustin Heredor. Let's get a replay of this.
Oof, yeah, and you can see it looked a little bit similar to what we saw at the start of last week, where just one car had a small mistake, and because he stopped on track, everybody else kind of piled in very quickly.
Yeah, Suarez got spun, and this is what kicked this off. And I heard you say there was a spin. I was trying to look back at the hairpin, see if someone looped it there. But no, this was much bigger, an accident that came back onto the racing line and collected multiple cars. And that's proof, if anything, why you want to qualify well at a twisty course such as Sonoma.
As we come back live, it is still Wood up in the lead. Frisch following, with Bycroft still giving chase. Then from there, you've got a little bit of a gap back to Fraser, who's trying to play catch-up with the top of the field. But right now, it is our podium and our championship contenders who seem to be dominating the early stages of this race. Sam, I'm curious to see if it's going to stay a lot like this at the front, with no pit stops scheduled and it being a little bit notoriously tough to pass here.
Yeah, well, no surprises in the top 5, Joe. All those cars are where they started. But Timothy Dalton, let's give a shout out to him. He's the driver running in 6th. He started in 10th in that number 16 car and is already sitting just outside the top 5.
So Dalton, having gained a little bit from the chaos around him, still all by his lonesome. We saw this last week, where some drivers tended to drive by themselves. Frisch kind of had a race like that. Is this going to be similar, do you think, Sam, that drivers will trying to just get a little bit of space and not worry about racing those around them?
Well, judging by the way this race started, I think some of these drivers, especially further back in the field, will be happy just to finish this race in one piece. But for these drivers up front, Joe, this is critical championship time. You know, we only have a few rounds left. It's going to be hard to make pass, especially considering the track temperature is quite high today. But that's what they might have to do if they want to take this title away from Gernot Frisch.
Certainly going to have to push hard for the multi-time champion. Matt Wood has looked the most likely to be able to overthrow him. In multiple seasons, he's really been challenging. I'm impressed with Steve Bycroft, of course, in the way that he has been running. Had multiple wins already this season. As we ride on board with Bycroft looking up at Frisch now.
So, what could happen for second place? Because it looks like Matt Wood has built up a bit of a gap over Frisch and Bycroft, as he mentioned, running quite close for second position. Still early stages here, though, at Sonoma. Lap number 4 of 32, so a long ways left to go. And really, there's only one great overtaking opportunity here, Joe, especially for these cars, you know, with the way they behave. And that's where they are right now. Coming out of a carousel, Bycroft needs to get a good run, get a slipstream, and then make a move down the inside of Frisch. And he did all that lap, but just not enough to be able to do anything about it. He can't wait for a mistake by Frisch, because Frisch doesn't make mistakes. He's going to have to do this the hard way somehow.
And over the shoulder of Bycroft, still weaving their way through the S's down towards one of the few places that you can potentially get a pass into the hairpin. Certainly a little bit too far back this time, as he follows our current championship leader. Gets a little bit close there into the braking. Do you think it's going to be pretty similar on setup, though, Sam, between most of the cars? It's so twisty around here. I have to imagine high downforce is the call.
Yeah, I should imagine that as well, Joe. Now you can see Matt Wood just set the fastest lap, pulled out a little bit more time on Frisch. Now we have word that we just had an incident for Todd Herner a couple moments ago. That takes it down to 17 cars still in contention there, Joe. And now viewers can see that on the timing and scoring on the left side, the pillar there. We have Todd Herner, Robert Simpkins, Dustin Herreder, Pablo Lombardo Suarez, Tommy Mikel Inhola, Barry West, and Glenn McKinnon have already fallen by the wayside.
So take a look at this battle for 13th between our drivers heading up into turn 1. Looks like Johnny Bell's going to get the best of that. They now work their way back over the crest down towards 4.
Nose to tail as they work their way through the tricky infield of this circuit. Now, when it opens up after the carousel, in fact, before that, we might have an attempted pass as Brian looks down the inside, going through the carousel, but Johnny Bell is going to get a better exit on that high line. And if Brian's not able to get a good run, see, I almost feel he should have waited another turn, Joe. This is the best place to do it.
Certainly seems to be the most popular, especially with open wheel cars. But as Molitor continues to hound him, we ride on board with his black machine, the green and blue car of Johnny Bell up ahead. Once again, getting caught out in the wake. I did see a lot of drivers, Sam, talking about how hard it is to follow the cars ahead because of the huge hole that this thing cuts in the air. There's not a lot of long straights, really, where I would think it'd give you a good slipstream.
Yeah, and I mean, the other thing is, you know, these cars, they were revolutionary at the time. That this Lotus 79 car based off of the race car that Lotus ran during the 1978 Formula One World Championship. And aerodynamics was a thing by then. And no matter how much you try and prevent it, whenever you have an aerodynamically dependent race car, it's going to handle worse being behind another car. And Gernot Frisch is getting a little bit of that now, because you can see him and Bycroft have ran down Matt Wood. Wood had about a second lead, but he's obviously lost that. So now we wait to see if Wood can open that lead back up, or if Frisch can do anything about this.
It's been follow the leader so far in these first few laps of the race. They come around, and it is still Wood, your leader. This will be critical, though. The fact that he has been able to stay ahead. Last week, it was a mistake late in the race that cost him, as his damage allowed Gernot Frisch to catch him and then pass him. But that was still behind this man, Steve Bycroft, once again riding on board, looking over his shoulder. So the roles have reversed a little bit, and I think, actually, are they going to finish in reverse order from where they did last week at the ring, it seems.
Well, we'll wait and see. Gurno Frisch is a master of consistency. I mean, even if he can't win this race, I highly doubt he'll be involved in some kind of silly incident unless things get rough between him and Bycroft. Mind you, Bycroft, he's keeping him honest. He's not too far behind the number 1 car down the back straight there.
Now coming through the S's one more time. One thing I'm curious about in this part is in some cars, I know it's not quite flat out through turn 10, through here, where you've got the wall so close to the outside. Oh, and look how close Bycroft is this time. Is he going to take a look? He has a little bit of a peak, but unfortunately, he's not quite close enough through there. But is that turn 10 flat out in these cars here at Sonoma?
I honestly wouldn't know. We might have to step on board one of the onboards and hear what it's like. My guess would be is that it is for the car leading the train, but it wouldn't surprise me if the cars behind have to lift a tiny bit to compensate for the lack of front end downforce.
Looking back over the rear wing, under the rear wing there of our championship leader. Now swinging into one of the more famous turns on this track, the carousel, diving down, plunging. Look at the elevation change as it continues to go around a little bit more than a full 180 degrees and onto the drag strip. A little wide there from Gernot. And another little look down to the inside, still not quite close enough. But it looks like he's trying to apply pressure, see if he could rattle the Austrian a little bit.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, though. I think I've already established that that's the way I feel about getting under the skin of Gurno Frisch. And the next great passing opportunity is coming out of this corner and down into the hairpin, but Bycroft doesn't have a run. You know, we gave Timothy Dalton a shout-out, riding back in 6th position a while ago. Some cars behind him have also followed through and gained a lot of positions at the start, probably through all the carnage. Petteri Ketavara, he started 11th and is up to 7th. Keith Herner, he started 12th and is up to 8th. And Rob Olyanek, he qualified all the way down in 14th and is up to 9th. So some drivers having a good race, even though they're not battling up front. Talking about the front cars, the top 3 have really checked out from the rest of the field. Wood, Frisch and Bycroft all running within a couple of seconds of another, and then you have to go back about a few seconds to get to Adam Fraser in 4th. So some drivers having good days, some drivers up front. Matt Wood right now having great days. Unfortunately for several drivers, their days have already came to an end, and I believe we have Barry West here, and we haven't spoke to him in a couple of rounds. Barry made the start of a race, but Barry, your race was short-lived, unfortunately.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, really. I mean, I don't know what happened in qualifying. I had 2 clean laps, and I watched in the replay, and there was no, not even 2 tyres off the track at all. I didn't get a time, so anyway, it was going to be fun trying to battle up through the field, and I thought at least I'd be able to see the trouble happening in front of me, which I did, and I avoided it. But I think I got punted from behind, and then spun round again, and seems to be one of those tracks where you have to be extremely careful first lap. But the trouble is, you can understand why people try to get positions on lap 1, because it's so difficult to overtake anyway. Pace being similar, but one of those things. Not a very good weekend.
No, we haven't heard from you in the last couple of rounds, Barry. You used to be a regular feature. Have you been doing anything else in the works recently?
Yes, I've been on holiday. I've been driving around Ireland and enjoying myself in a little convertible. So yeah, that's what I've been doing for the last 2 weeks, and then we just got back into it this week. But actually, I missed the split last week. Was it Nürburgring?
Yeah, it was Nürburgring. Well, we're glad to have you back, Barry. But this battle for 12th that we've had on screen heating up, so we're going to let you go and wish you best for the final few rounds.
I'll watch online. Cheers, thanks, sir.
Well, Joe, this was getting quite intense. Steve Arliss was able to hold off a challenge from behind him, but it backfired a bit on Brian Motta. He was trying to make a pass on Salis, wasn't able to pull it off, and in fact, Tobias Rona got on by for 12th.
Yeah, Rona being very opportunistic there for sure. Sometimes I'm assuming that you have to really take those sorts of opportunities instead of just trying to make a straightforward pass around here. With the difficulty we've seen drivers trying to get by one another, a lot of trains of cars starting to form up throughout the field. As we now ride on board with Rona looking ahead. Maybe he can get one more. Is it Steve who is the cork in the bottle of this group potentially? Weaving their way through the S's now towards the hairpin. He's getting awful close in places, but look at the wake once again hurting him. He gets a little bit of a run down to the hairpin, looks to the inside, tries to outbrake him into the corner. Is he given space? Yes, he is. He's going to have to drag race off past the drag strip up to turn 1. I'm not sure with the outside that he's going to be able to do it.
Well, he might be able to because Steve yields and gives him the position, but that was a bad place to do it because now Steve Salis has just put himself back under fire from Brian. So up into 12th place goes Tobias Rona, and he'll be trying to run away with that now. And battle for second. Prix was very off a racing line there, exiting the hairpin, Joe.
Yeah, that cost him some time. Matt Wood managing to pull away as he gets the gap now up to about half a second over Freesia. And Steve Bycroft trying to see if he can do anything with it. But unfortunately, it looks like no doors have opened for him quite yet. These three running a very good pace. They're already 4 seconds ahead of Adam Frazier. Really in no man's land currently. Has not been able to do much of anything with this group back there.
Yeah, so we were hearing from Barry West just a couple of moments ago talking about how critical it was to make moves at the start, and Matt Wood just put a couple wheels off, and now you see Gurno Frisch getting a little bit aggressive, sticking his nose out on the run down the drag strip, and that is because, as Barry West was saying, as we've been saying, it is so difficult to make a pass here. These drivers up front are so talented, they very rarely, if ever, make mistakes, but when they do, the driver behind needs to be ready to capitalize. This isn't only for the race win, this could also be affecting the championship because Frisch is leading it. And again, this is a single split of 24 cars. So finishing 4th or 5th might not be a whole lot of points for these drivers who are racing for this championship. That's bad news for Adam Frazier down in 4th right now. But first is still going to be worth a lot of points, and that's what Matt Wood is holding down right now. Remember, these drivers do get drop weeks. They don't want this to be one of them.
The tension is certainly building with this top group. Gernot was getting very close to Wood for a moment there on the first part of the lap, but now Wood starts to recollect himself and pull back away. They come down through the carousel one more time onto that drag strip. It's starting to get a little bit more tense. Each little bobble, each little mistake causes drivers to pounce, to take aggressive moves to see if they can try to get by. A little wide in the first part of the corner, but Matt Wood squares it off well, keeping himself clear of our championship leader. Still nothing able to change between these three. Apologies to the rest of the field, but this really is our best battle other than, well, the one that was recently settled farther down in the pack.
Well, Joe, we can say apologies to the rest of the field, but they'll get their screen time eventually, because look, we are not... Oh, as Frisch misses the apex, once again, he's really not getting through that final hairpin that well. We are not even halfway through this race. And we're going to have something here that we didn't have at the Nürburgring, and that is lap traffic, and it is not easy to get out of the way here at the Sonoma.
Yeah, first up is going to be Brad Clank, still riding on the lead lap in 16th. He managed to make his way through the melee on the first lap, but he's being caught very quickly by Wood. I'm guessing within about a lap or two, they should be on the back of that number 22. And I'm glad you brought up the fact that there is no split today. They've been having pretty good attendance in some of these races, and that has offered quite a few points. So today, especially this late in the season, how is this going to affect the championship between these drivers, and how does it affect how they race up at the front? They now come through the hairpin as the car lengths between themselves and Clank continue to minimize.
Yeah, Sonoma's a tricky track. That's probably hurting the attendance a little bit. And I think the answer to that, Joe, is you've got to win. So maybe we will see a driver like Gurno Freeze go for broke. But at the same time, these drivers have an immense amount of respect for each other, that they show up at the same time every week. And speaking of respect, thanks for Brad for yielding to the leaders there and letting all three of them by, not holding any of them up. Now, granted, that was easy, Joe. That was easy for those three to get by Brad right there because he's running on his own. They're going to start catching more cars, battling for positions of their own, including that little scrap we had going on for 12th place, which has broken up a little bit now. But the point being, some drivers might not be as nice to Matt Wood when he comes up behind him.
Yeah, we've got two sort of situations that are coming together. Bell and Sarles are getting close together, but also Keith Herner is catching Petteri Codavara, who is in 7th, and he's been running him down lap after lap. Now, looks like Petteri is responding. He set a 21.7 where he was running 22s for most of the previous laps. So I think he's got the hurry up now that he's looking in his mirrors and seeing the number 15 showing up.
The other gap just stuck out to me, Joe, is Adam Fraser in 4th place. Remember, he is an outside championship contender. He's definitely outside of his battle for the lead right now, but not by much. He's only 4 seconds away. If anything does happen up front, if they start to get into a scrap, he could very easily be back in this.
I mean, he's actually less than 4 seconds now. Remember, I said he was over 4 before. It is now 3.3, so he's gained some time. Is this a car that the setup can change how it handles as the race goes on, either due to weight or just the heat getting into the tires? Is it something where like the race can come back to you?
Normally not, Joe. However, Sonoma is such a tricky course and the track temperature is so hot and there's so many laps around here. I would have a feeling this could be an exception, that some drivers' tyres might start to go off towards the end of a race. Now, from my experience in this Lotus 79 car, that just means a longer braking distance most of the time. As a general rule of thumb, this car handles better as the race goes on because it loves a light fuel tank. But I wouldn't count the tyres out as a factor today.
Certainly seems that Gernot is wishing he had a little bit more grip in his tires, because we keep seeing Matt Wood take a wide entry, especially into the hairpin turns. And I wonder if the number 1 car behind him is going to have to take a late dive and just catch him out when he keeps the door open like that. But so far, he's not been able to do that. He's not been quite close enough. All it'll take is just that one good run. They swing it through once again. Your order, if you're just joining us, for the leaders is Wood up at the front. Gernot Freesia is in 2nd, and Steve Bycroft running 3rd.
Ooh, Matt Wood getting a little bit squirrely out of a turn there. They're about to catch more lap traffic, running closer together. But one thing I've noticed, Joe, is I am not half a driver that Gurno Freesia is, so I feel bad criticising him. But his racing line through the final turn, I think that's what it is. I don't think he's overshooting it. I think that's the way he likes taking the turn. It does not seem optimal to me. It has given Steve Bycroft, in my opinion, an opportunity to perhaps pounce down the front straight one lap. Right now, they're all really getting close at the end of the drag strip as they get by the lap car. So here we go. Wood, Freesh, Bycroft. Once again, we are over halfway now, and maybe that will change the mindset of these drivers. But watch, as they come out of the S's, they got a right here, a left, and then the right, and then they do the run down to the hairpin. Gurno Freak seems to carry a lot of speed into the hairpin, but I think it causes him to overshoot it a little bit, and that gives Bycroft a window if he ever feels like taking it. And as I say that, oh, Wood, the back end of his car sticks out, and Freak, the one lap, he nails it, and now it looks to the outside. There may have been contact there. Wood and Freak side by side up a hill.
Gernot's going to have the inside as they come into turn 2, but can he take advantage of it? He's given space at the apex. Matt Wood tries to carry the momentum. It's going to swing back left, but then right once again through 3 and 3A, up and over the crest, and he's got it done. Patience paid off, but another spot going to go away as Steve Bycroft gets his nose in down to turn 4. He's not brave enough on the brakes, though. Wood holds him off, but he has got work to do to try and get back by Gernot.
And you could have said we almost saw that coming a little bit. The rear end of Matt Wood's car had been sticking out a little bit through a couple of turns. Finally, it got the better of him, and now we get a battle for second. Bykoff looks down the inside again, licking his chops from 4th place, now only about 2.5 seconds back as Adam Fraser, and also licking his chops is Gernot Fries running away from this battle for second.
All they needed was that one domino to fall, and suddenly all the action starts to happen. Bycroft had a look into that hairpin, but couldn't do anything with it. Now he falls back slightly. Already ahead of them, the number 1 starting to pull away. Was he being held up? Is he faster than Matt Wood? It certainly seems like it, as already in this 3/4 of a lap that he's been ahead, he's pulled the gap out to 0.8 of a second.
The other question, Joe, was there contact during that pass for the lead? I think there might have been. I don't see any damage. Yeah, let's get a replay of it. I don't see any damage on Gernot Fries's front wing. And if there is, it's not affecting him yet.
Here we see them coming into the hairpin. Watch off the corner. You're going to see the car ahead have a little bobble. Wonder if he was set off by just distracted by the lap traffic. Yeah, it didn't look like they touched on that one. Elsewhere, I don't believe they came close enough. Fair play to Wood, giving him space at the apex. He could have tried to chop him off, although I think we'd see 2 cars in the dirt if that would have happened. Managed to stay out of each other. It is already up to 1.1 seconds as they get ready to cross the line again.
Yeah, so now we're seeing what we're seeing in the championship take place on track. And that's Gernot Fries with the comfortable lead and a good battle for second for him. Wood, Bycroft and Fraser all close in the points for second. They're all going to be close on the track here soon. I think Wood's tyres have gone off. We started to see him sliding around, and now he did seem to be holding Bycroft up a little bit, and Fraser's not too far behind them. At least that's the way it appeared last lap. Now it finally seems that Wood has got his car back underneath him and he pulls away a bit.
Meanwhile, we're watching the battle for P6. That is Dalton in the dark car that you see leading the McLaren of Codavara. And then Keith Herner, the sister Renault, the number 15, chasing the pair of them. A little bit wide through the S's, I noticed, for Timothy Dalton at one point. We didn't see it on screen. He nearly was off course, obviously pushing hard. These 3, I believe, that took advantage of the chaos that happened on lap 1, because they started in 10th, 11th, and 12th, respectively. Oh, what happened to Herner? Oh, Werner. Roner had an issue. Looks like it was an off in the S's.
Bycroft has just gone by Wood. And they're still side by side, going down the front straight. Wood overshot the hairpin, overshot the final hairpin. Bycroft got up alongside him. This is a replay of what we saw between Frisch and Wood not too long ago, but this time can Wood hold on to it? Yes, he can, maybe. Yes, he does.
Oof, learned his lesson from last time, at least on turn 2, as we look at the replay. Figured out how to hold station around the outside of that corner. This is how it all kicked off. But his Achilles heel, Sam, and it was on the way into instead of the way out of this hairpin instead. But it certainly does not seem to like this corner very well. Oh, look at the lap traffic nearly getting in the way as well. Great job by that lapped car.
That was the driver we were just talking about a moment ago. I'll tell you who else loved this battle. That white car at the very back of the picture there. Fraser just comes closer into the battle.
Yeah, he kept himself in position. He may not have had the pace to be right with the top drivers, at the first part of the race. But now that they've started battling, Adam Frazier has run that gap down to less than a second, about half a second between himself and Steve Bycroft. Those two have gone back to single file. I wonder if they'll start to pull away or if maybe Frazier can stay with them. They have quite a gap to the next car back. That's Nicola Cocci, who is in fifth. The Italian about 12 seconds behind.
Yeah, but that's still a pretty good race when you compare Cocci to everyone else behind him. 20 seconds behind him, next car, Dalton, in sixth. 16 cars still running, 11 on the lead lap. The last car on the lead lap is John Stevens.
So we watch these three come downhill out of 4 through 5. And now getting ready for the steeply plunging turn 6. You have to wonder, well, as a big slide from Bycroft is going to lose him the position. He doesn't catch it without going fully around. He does a nice little pirouette and gets it going once again. But he is now down to 4th because of that.
Still far ahead of Cocci. Now, we've seen Wood, for whatever reason, been getting past a little bit. Does this open him up to a possible pass by Frazier? Because there on the replay, you see Frazier goes by Bycroft and up into 3rd.
Credit to Frazier on this one. Slowly but surely putting himself into play. Now onto the podium. Could even get himself up into 2nd place as Codavara in a little bit of a battle now. And another spin. Keith Herner unfortunately losing it on the exit of the carousel. And how did it... this all kicked off. Timothy Dalton, who was at the front of that train. This is incredibly similar to what we saw with Bycroft, except for the fact that poor Codavara had nowhere to go and just plowed into the side.
So how badly damaged are the cars after this as we get a replay of this incident going through the carousel and in the closing stages of a race? So a spin, slide by Dalton, and like I say, kind of followed his mistake, and they're all over the place, all three fighting for control. Rob Olyanek gained a position out of that. He went up from 9th to 8th ahead of Keith Herner. Oh, that was some hard contact.
Really got into him, and because of the contact and because of Herner's spin, they essentially wound up where they were until, of course, Codavara had to come in for repairs.
I think we're getting wetty toed, yeah.
That is unfortunate considering the good race that he was having. 10 laps to go to survive, to get to the end. And that makes me wonder, that crest that we just watched Olenek go over now. That's twice now we've seen drivers lose the rear. And you were talking about the downforce, the unique downforce that this car has with the under tray. I wonder if the cars are getting light and just losing that suction in that section. That's why we're seeing them swing around like that.
That could happen. I used to race in the Lionheart Retro Series, which you can watch Thursday nights, I believe, on the iRacing Esports Network. And one thing we always struggled with those cars is whenever they got light on fuel, especially and we got about a second.
And it's the same thing. The exact same thing, Sam. He goes into the corner and the rear of the car gives up.
Yeah, this is just like our oval racing on Lionheart. For some reason, these cars on light fuel loads at high-speed turns can spin out.
We're going to watch from Wood. Oh, and you could see he was already trying to collect it out of turn 4. A little bit of a bump to the inside, though, as we ride on board. You can see the car jostle just slightly, and that was enough to lose grip, but he stayed in 3rd position. Bycroft spun completely around, so he lost more time than Wood did. Wood stays on the podium, but this is scuppering his hopes for a championship, as Gernot is now going to collect a wider margin of points over him if things stay as they are.
Well, if you believe in the commentator's curse, you'll be telling me to shut up now, but what a drive by Adam Frazier. Yeah,
now up to 2nd place. He has got about 5.5 seconds up to our leader, and with 8 laps to go, unless we get a similar mistake from Gernot, I'm not sure that we're going to see him manage to take a win. Boy, what a story that would be, though, considering he started in 4th. Look at this battle for 6th. This is Rob Olenek just ahead of Timothy Dalton. Teammates trying to sort this one out as they're being followed by Keith Herner as well. So essentially a 3-car fight, but it is going to come out in favor of Olenek as they finally get single file into turn 2. Or will they? A little bit wide off the corner. Timothy Dalton under attack from Keith Herner. That's the outside of 3A. Oh, he's going to keep his nose in it. Oh, not quite enough.
We should explain for viewers wondering why teammates are battling so hard. These teams are thrown together pretty much randomly at the start of the season, so these drivers might absolutely detest each other. I'm not saying that is the case between Olenek and Dalton, but you know, there's no necessary alliance between them, so that's why you see battles like that. But Dalton's not worried about Olenek right now. He's still worried about Herner, who sticks his nose out, and Dalton overshoots the turn and will yield that position.
Well, Herner may have lost control a few laps ago, but he's trying to make up for it now. Looks like Dalton squared off the corner, got a good run, but as they come into the S's, he's discovering there's really no place to get by, and now he falls back by a large margin. And look at this. We're finally getting some sun cooling down the track. It is an ice cold 115 degrees on the surface.
Yeah, sun is cooling down the track. Let's give a shout out to the one driver left on the lead lap up. We haven't mentioned that all today, and that's in 9th place in the number 9. He started 9th, and I think John Atkinson Jr. was involved a little bit in that opening lap crash, which set him back in the order, and he's just kind of had to keep on going to get these positions back. He could have been up there as high as 6 probably had he not gotten a piece of that incident, but still he'll be able to come out of here with the top 10 right now.
Yeah, just a little bit of damage on that rear wing. Another battle towards the back getting close. Roner closing up on Molitor. This is for 11th position. As they come into the hairpin, Roner has certainly had his fair share of adventures throughout this race. 6 laps to go. He's going to run out of opportunities very quickly. Is less than a minute and a half to circulate around this place. He's going to have to get right up behind that number 18 and start to do something.
Right now, I've got my camera pretty much fixed on the carousel for these final 6 laps after how we've seen this race unfold for about the last 10. And we've also got a scrap for 8th to be decided.
Well, this is Dalton with now John Atkinson Jr. John going to try and get one more spot deep on the brakes into the hairpin. Dalton did not defend. He lets him through. Dalton looks like he is hurting at the end of this race. The fact that he gave that one up so easily, I think he's just trying to limp this car to the end.
See if Atkinson can do anything about Herner in front of him in 7th.
Already starting to pull away from Dalton and leave him in the dust. Let's go back to Roner because he's getting ever closer to Molitor for that 11th position. They now work their way through the S's. Despite it being so incredibly sunny for so long, it has cooled down a lot. It is now 106 degrees on the track. That is 9 degrees in what was, like maybe 3 minutes since we last called it?
Still hot though, but yeah, I'm sure these drivers will appreciate a little bit of extra grip. Maybe that could help prevent some of the spins that we've been seeing down at the carousel. So 6th place still close with Rob Olenek ahead of Keith Herner. I think Keith Herner was off the line a little bit there, and that allowed Rob to get a bit of distance.
Oh, we need to go back to Roner. Oh, I thought he had a run down into turn 4. There was a big slide from Molitor out of there. He's certainly opening the window here and there for Tobias to try and do something, but as they come out of the carousel, this is where he needs to get that good run. The yellow and black machine of Tobias Roner racing for the DH Club. He's looking to the inside. He seems to think he's pretty good on the brakes, but unfortunately, it is not to be as he stays in that 12th position for now.
Gernot Frisch, meanwhile, has just crossed the line. Click off another lap now, just 4 laps left to go here at Sonoma. We'll be going to VIR next week, Drew, so if these drivers don't like tricky, twisty circuits, they're out of luck right now.
Yeah, but... Oh, and John Atkinson, after all of his hard work, throws it away in, guess where?
Turn one.
Carousel. Not quite. Well, this was a little bit different. He was towards the outside, and he didn't spin it completely, but he nearly climbs the hill.
That looks like a good place to take a sled in winter, although it's hard to imagine a place this hot could ever have snow.
That's a good question. Has Sonoma ever seen snow? I wouldn't think they have. Because this is close to San Francisco. John Atkinson Jr. still running in 9th position. Thankfully, 33 seconds down to John Stevens. So that dire threat of the number 13 trying to catch him closing in, but I don't think he's really going to catch him with 4 to go. Now 3 to go here soon.
Looking at the intervals on that board on the left there, Joe, the one battle we really still have is Oljanek and Herner. Everyone finally starting to break apart as we enter the dying moments of this race.
Yeah, and Herner's been holding on to the back of Rob Olenek, but the New England driver has been keeping him at arm's length. He hasn't really been close enough to attack in the recent laps. Herner and the Renault, of course, hoping for that team's championship to add a few more points from 7th to 6th will certainly help. His teammate is doing everything he can up at the front to take max points there. Oh, and
yeah,
what's happened?
It was a gimme, Joe. Tobias Rona pretty much pulled to the side and let Brian Malta by, or did I get that backwards? But anyway, yeah, I did get backwards. But if we ride on board Rona just a couple more turns here, the reason I reacted a couple of seconds ago, he almost loses it coming out of turn 4.
Yeah, it was a little wide coming through 2 even. Or yeah, through 4 we saw there on board. As that was happening, Keith Herner for a brief moment got as close as 0.3 of a second to Rob Olenek. Oh, and another mistake from Rob. Wide through turn 4. This could be tight down at the end. It could be down to who makes fewer mistakes between these two to settle this 6th position. They're really not close to anybody else out on track. It's 41 seconds up to Kochi in P5. We only have 8 cars left on the lead lap here today, and only 15 are finishing out of our 24 starters.
Yeah, and a lot of that is due, obviously, to the crash at the start of a race. And also, it's a rather short track around, so we anticipated lap traffic. But yeah, I mean, the top 5 are within half a minute of another, and then there's another half a minute jump back to Keith Herner in 6th. To Rob Oljanek in 6th place. So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely been the cream of the crop out front here today, being led by Gono Frisch. Not all race, it must be said. Matt Wood led the majority of a race, but eventually it seemed his car started to go off a little bit as the run wore on. Frisch kept cool. He's taken the lead, and he has 9 seconds over Adam Fraser starting the final lap.
White flag waving for that Renault as he swings it through 1 and into the blind turn 2. Down in 3rd place, Bycroft has now managed to run down Wood. But it's one thing to catch a driver, and I'm not sure that Williams is going to manage to get onto the podium unless we see a big mistake from Matt, which we have seen a couple as this race has gone on.
Yeah, I think it really depends on how aggressive does Steve Bycroft want to be coming out of a carousel. And mind you, after what we've seen the last few laps, you might want to be careful coming out of a carousel. But here they go. You're going to throw it in one more time. Wood ahead of Bycroft to 3rd and 4th. Bycroft taking a narrower line. It looks like Wood's going to get a good enough run, although let's see if Bycroft sticks his nose down the inside. Here he goes.
Gonna try it. I just didn't think he was quite close enough for that. He is held off for now. We jump over to the number 1 car. Going to keep that number 1 as his iRating going to get a nice little boost here today. Around the final hairpin Gernot Friesche, another victory, and with only 3 rounds remaining, increases his chances of taking another championship here at Sonoma.
Fraser gets second. Wood will probably hold on for third. Coming out the final turn, he's got a good enough run. He'll finish ahead of Bycroft, but I'm sure he won't be happy about that, knowing what could have been after the first half of the race.
Olenek and Herner still close, and they're very early in the lap, so there's a lot of this left to go. Herner still chasing within half a second.
John Stevens is having a troubled lap here, Joe. He's already lost 10th place. He might be about to lose 11th place to Brian Moeller. So 10th place will be taken by Tobias Rona ahead of him. Drag race for 11th. It looks like John Stevens will be able to hold on to it.
As we jump back to that 6th place battle, Herner is pushing. The car gets wobbly coming through the S's. They're now going to swing it through turn 10 down towards the hairpin. I think that bobble may have cost him. Herner way too far back. And Rob Olenek, as long as he's smooth on the power, should have this 6th place nailed down. And indeed he is. A nice battle all the way to the line between these two. That's going to take us to our break, but don't forget, afterwards we will have the official results as well as driver interviews. And then between now and then, you'll see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back here to Sonoma Raceway. We just watched round 9 in the Lotus 79 Classic Teams Championship. It looked like at the start Matt Wood might be able to overthrow Gernot Friesche one time. It was not to be. He was the winner, even though he started in second today. Fraser, though, I think his is my race of the day. Going from 4th to 2nd place, patiently waiting, pressuring everybody else into mistakes. and coming away with the second step on the podium. Matt Wood managed to get back into third ahead of Steve Bycroft, Bycroft finishing fourth despite a spin. Both he and Wood having problems in the carousel. Nicola Kochi did not have the pace today. He finished in fifth, well behind. Same thing with Rob Olenek, certainly outclassed by the top five, but still a well-earned sixth, having started 14th, managing to avoid all the chaos of lap one. Keith Herner gets seventh behind him, with Timothy Dalton, the first car, a lap down in eighth. John Atkinson Jr. throwing away a better finish, but still getting ninth, and Tobias Roner taking 10th.
Behind them, we see John Stevens in 11th position, ahead of Brian Molitor back there in 12th place. Johnny Bell, didn't really mention him or broadcast. He comes home in 13th. In the last car, one lap down is Steve Sardis. Brad Klenk was 2 laps down by the end, and then we get to the drivers that ran into trouble, of which there were a lot. Starting with Pateri Catavera, Don Runkle Jr., Todd Herner, Robert Simpkins, and Dustin Herodor. All these drivers were not running by the end of a race, as were the drivers on our last page here. Out on lap one, Pablo Lombara Suarez, Tommy McElroy-Hola, Barry West, and Glenn McKinnon.
Yeah, a couple of those ended on the very first lap with nowhere to go, but didn't end on the first lap for Gernot Frische. He managed to take the victory here today. It looked like you were trying to wait a little bit patiently back there, and then eventually it came to you. Talk about that battle going into turn one to try and take the lead away. Did you feel confident that you'd be able to make that stick?
Hi, Joe. Hard to say because I saw Matt making that mistake coming out of the last corner. And then I first tried to get to the inside, but he closed the door, so I had to change to the outside. And then it was a really tough battle because we were going too wide for several corners, and I had the lucky end on my side because I ended up being on the inside in the last and deciding corner. So that's why I got the pass done in the end.
Now, obviously, you've been used to this happening in the past before iRacing tweaked the way that the sun works on the surface of the track. But today we saw as wide as 15 degrees Fahrenheit swing from the hottest to the coolest in conditions. Were you having to try and keep track of that out there, or did you not really notice when the cloud came over?
Well, actually, you notice, especially in the S's, because sometimes you have grip, and next lap you don't have that much grip. So it's hard to predict because you don't know how hot it is right now. But the good thing was that I experienced the same changes in the race before, so I was a little bit aware of that.
Obviously, these last two races, you've put more points on Matt Wood, both beating him at the ring and here at Sonoma. But do you attribute that more to a little bit of luck, or do you think this is all down to just your skill in the car?
Well, I would say at Nürburgring it was just pure luck. I was clearly not the fastest guy there. Today was a little bit better because I had really good pace. But in the end, I was also lucky because Matt made a mistake, and without that mistake, it would have been really, really hard to overtake.
Sounds like a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but still you've performed admirably with a big challenge from Wood this season. Hopefully we'll see you next week when we come back for VIR.
Yeah, one of my favorite tracks, and a really, really nice one. So I'm looking forward to that. I should be there. Congrats to Adam for great second place. Not easy to do in that grid, and congrats to Matt as well.
Our championship leader taking maximum points once again here in California. Your winner, Gernot Frische. Up next, Sam is going to be talking to our fourth place finisher, Steve Bycroft.
Yeah, Steve, you were up there up front, but unfortunately you got called out by the carousel like many drivers did. What was making that turn so tricky?
Yeah, I haven't spun there all week, so I was real surprised when the back end started coming around. I think I just took it a little wide, and then the tires, were kind of worn because we were battling pretty hard there. But I mean, I was really surprised. I mean, it was pretty much getting away from me before I even realized, that it was doing it.
You, Matt, and Adam have a pretty good scrap going for second in the points in the Lotus 79 Classic Team Championship here that we see on GSRC every Sunday afternoon. How important is that second in the points for you? I think you've mentioned in the past you do a lot of races during the week, so you don't get a lot of points anyway. And did it make you want to race extra harder, knowing that this was a single split race?
No, I was pretty much I thought my car was pretty good, and I thought I had a chance to win, so I was just pushing as hard as I could. I mean, we had a pretty nice scrap there. It's really tough to pass here. So you kind of have to hope somebody makes even the slightest mistake, and then you kind of have to force the issue maybe a little bit more than you'd really want to. But, I mean, for the first part of the race, I thought, maybe I had a chance. But after that spin, I mean, I tried to run Matt down there because I guess he ran into some trouble too, but just ran out of laps.
Yeah, I think he had a similar mistake to what you did there. Well, next week we go to another tricky course, but got a couple more passing opportunities, you could say. That's Virginia International Raceway. How do you feel about that track?
I think it's a pretty fun track. I think it's going to be tough to beat Gurno there, though. I mean, that's almost like made to order for him.
All right. Well, hey, that's why we run the races, right? We can easily say he'll win on paper, but we'll have to tune in here next Sunday to find out if he can win it on the track. Well, congrats, Steve, on a solid finish here today. I know it's not the finish we were looking for, but we look forward to seeing you back next week.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot.
That was fourth place finisher Steve Bycroft. And we have the next car down, fifth place, a top 5 for Nicola Kochi. But Nicola, I have to wonder, were there times that you doubted there were even other cars on the track? It looked really lonely for you out there.
Yeah, I don't know where everybody was going. We just like lapping alone, and no real things to do or to follow or to gap. I was just very, very lonely.
Are you the type of driver that does well with a little bit of a carrot in front of him, someone to chase that you can see and push yourself? Or do you like those races where you can focus on what you're doing in the car?
Yeah, because it's helped me to not like going crazy to try to push and push harder every lap, because that is like pretty sure that I will not going to finish the race. So yeah, I kind of like to be in the mix to defend or attack, because when I'm running alone, you have like a lot of thought in your head, and it's very easy to do my usual mistake, to push too hard and slam into the wall.
Well, next week we're going to Virginia International Raceway. Do you usually fare well there?
I think I raced only once there, but I kind of like the track, and this time for Virginia, I should be able to practice a little bit in this week, because I did this race at Sonoma with almost like no practice whatsoever, because I was busy all the week, so I could get a grip of the track only on Friday, so, and only for 1 hour. So I was just like learning during the race what I had to do to be fast. So I guess that on Veer, I hope to be a little closer to the fast guy, because I'm on, I should be on holiday, but the rest of the world doesn't notice that didn't get a memo, and I'm having like a lot more work than usual work time. So anyway, let's see how it goes.
Absolutely. Well, again, that makes it all the more admirable that you took a fifth. Congratulations on that. It was Nicola Kochi with the top 5 here today, and we've got to close up. So a big thank you goes out to the Lotus 79 community for bringing us back for another season of coverage. And a thank you also goes out to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcasts listed here on your screen. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Sam, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. You can also check us out on social media. We're on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. Head on over to our YouTube page. Make sure and hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed so that you don't miss a moment here on the GSRC. As we mentioned, next week we're going to Virginia for VIR. That'll be August 18th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We have other upcoming races for other series on the screen. Check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.